Hi, Bob the Canadian here, or RompSteel. So this is a weird video, but it's something I've been thinking about for a bit. I remember when I was newer at the game, I had this real thirst for trying to figure out how to get better at the game. And sometimes it's not obvious, especially when you're newer at the game, it's not obvious what you did wrong or what you could have done better, you know? So I wanted to make this video sharing what I've learned over, according to the ladder, I've played about 400 games now, so naturally, I'm a lot better than I was when I played my first game. So here are my 5 tips. Well, when I say tips, the first couple are kind of they're obvious ways, but they're ways that I think aren't actually that good. I'm kind of just addressing them because they're ways that people look to, obviously. So number 5, I have looking at the stats. The stats obviously are really cool. And there's some valuable information for sure, especially when you look at, what upper players are doing. Like if there's, for eyes allocated, Aragorn crowned, it's really cool that our stats are more in depth and that they provide that kind of info. I'm really excited to see what kind of info we get after we put, some more games on those stats. But it's just a very situational game, right? So you could look at, Rohan, if they have like a slightly lower capture percentage, does that mean that it's a bad idea to go after Rohan? No, it just means that sometimes people don't, depending on if muster cards got played early and there were weaker targets elsewhere, So anyway, like the stats are cool. They're not going to tell you how to play the game perfectly, though. Number 4, I have looking at logs. So downloading logs of like high-ranked players and watching through them can be cool for sure, especially if it's marked as a fun game. I don't think it's actually a fantastic way to learn how to get better at the game, though, just because you don't always get an explanation of why they did or didn't do things. I did a lot of this, actually. Like, I'd pick a couple players who had a different play style from me when I was newer, and I would download, like, tons of their logs and watch them all. And I remember just being confused and frustrated because I didn't get why they did what they did or why they didn't do what seemed like the obviously correct thing to me. Anyway, so that's number 4, is looking at logs. Number 3 is content. Yeah, there's several of us now anyway, and there's plenty of good content out there. I know I'm just like wiggling a mouse around on an empty War of the Ring screen, just monologuing here, which is a little bit goofy, but I'll use this a little bit sooner or later anyway. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Anyway, so like there's a few different good content people out there, right? They can definitely have good advice. For sure. The plus side to that, why that's better than logs, is that, you get some explanation of the thought process behind why something was or wasn't a good idea. As I recently read in a comment anyway, when I go through my reviews, I go a little bit too quick. So I'm going to experiment anyway with doing more live game commentaries and posting those. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed that last one that I did with my game against Saved by Him, if you like that better. Because I definitely, because I'm going slower, naturally I'm narrating more of my thought process. Whereas in a review, I'm kind of blitzing through it. So anyway, let me know if you prefer like a half-hour review or the 1 to 2 hours slow going through the game. Let me know what is more fun for you. Number 2, and this is the hardest advice for myself to follow at the time: slow down. This is I'm still really bad at this. Sometimes I just play too fast because I'm excited, and it's like, oh, I have this army. I'm going to get Woodland Realm, and it's going to be awesome. And that might still be the correct choice, but you just got to slow down. You got to think a little bit more. So I would like to introduce you to my friend Stockfish. So Stockfish, as many of you may already know, he is it's a computer / a program anyway that some people have put together for chess. So it's a chess robot that puts together you'll punch in a chess situation into Stockfish and it will tell you what the best moves are for each side. Now, it's not perfect because to actually calculate all the way through chess, we need a computer way more powerful than anything we have on Earth, because there's trillions and trillions and trillions of options. But they have a really strong one put together by some really smart people with tons and tons of data. So they have Stockfish, this computer that can easily beat any human on Earth. Anyway, so we don't have a Stockfish for War of the Ring because there just isn't enough money for anyone to have made it. That being said, it would be really cool if we did have a Stockfish for War of the Ring. I know Ira's working on a solitaire bot anyway, so I don't know if that'll be like Stockfish level perfect, or like probably not, because that would take a lot of time and money anyway. But it's interesting to see what Solitaire thinks people can come up with, because this game is less complicated than chess in the sense that there's just less trillions and trillions of options. Like at the same time, I could say we roll the dice here and we see what options we have. So the computer could look at, with this die, I could do this and this. Those are options, and then it could spend a long time calculating all the other trillions of things down that road. If you like did the favor of narrowing down some of the dumber options, then it might be easy to make a much better Stockfish. Anyway, my encouragement is to think of yourself as Stockfish. So what Stockfish does with chess anyways, it analyzes every single option that you could make. It analyzes, okay, you could move this pawn here, and then it calculates all the different things your opponent could do in response to that. It's like, or you could put your knight here, and then it analyzes all the things your opponent could do in response to that. So early game, there's a little less, play and counterplay, but I encourage you to slow down and think of yourself as Stockfish. Just ask the question, what else could I do with this die? Because you probably have an instinct, like a first thought that comes to mind of like, this is what I should do with this. But sometimes if you take a deep breath and just like force yourself to not do that move right away and think about the other things you could do with it, there might actually be a better option out there. Specifically, if you look at what your opponent might be doing, there might be something else that you really ought to do with it. So anyway, an example for you. Say this army is here, and they're attacking Osgiliath. Let's say we're going to pretend this is a different die. And we're going to pretend Sauron's at war, and that Gondor is one step away from war. So they're attacking Osgiliath right now. We'll say no card, no card. Shadow player rolls no hits. Free people player rolls no hits. So... actually, no. For example's sake, we're going to pretend the Shadow rolled 2 hits, and those guys are dead. And now Gondor is activated and at war. We're also going to pretend that this Will of the West isn't that. Because, yeah, I have a very, very specific example here. We're going to pretend it's a character die for moving here anyway. So now, as the Free People's player, you have a couple of options anyway. You can muster an elite into Minas Tirith right now, which is an entirely reasonable choice. But then you can think to yourself, well, the Shadow player might actually just run over here and besiege Dol Amroth. So it might actually be worth holding off, especially if you don't think they want to blow up Minas Tirith right now, and possibly mustering in Dol Amroth instead. Or you could use it to muster a regular in Minas Tirith and a regular in Dol Amroth. Or famously, holding on to a hybrid die so that this army doesn't come and besiege Helm's Deep. Like if you also used it to muster Minas Tirith right now, and this army's like that might be a threat. They might go and besiege it, and then you have to, waste a ring or a character die moving that army back. So anyway, just tensions to think about. Sometimes you just got to slow down and ask, what is my opponent going to do this turn with their dice? That might have been long-winded. Sorry if that didn't actually get the point across. I think I did anyway. And here's my point number one. It's a 2-step plan anyway. My number one recommendation for how to actually learn and grow and get better at this game is play against high-rated players. And then after the game, ask them if anything sticks out that you could have done better. This is definitely what helped me improve the most. I played... in my early days, I got beaten by Cheech, who sadly doesn't play very much anymore, but he's still up there on the all-time ladder anyway. I got beat by him so many times in a row before I finally won. And yeah, I lost, and I got punished for so many mistakes that I learned about while I was losing those games. It's kind of like... yeah, if you wanted to get better at basketball, challenging LeBron James to a one-on-one would be a great way of highlighting what you're bad at, So specifically, I encourage you to play against high-rated players, and afterwards ask them what you could have done better. Because if you don't ask, a lot of people are likely to not say. Personally, I don't tell anyone anything that they did wrong, because that seems rude to me. If you ask, then I'm very happy to talk about what you maybe should have done differently. But you could have played the worst game I have ever seen. I won't say a single bad thing about your game, because that just seems rude. It's a game. We're here to have fun. Like, I'm not here to tell anyone that they did something bad or wrong unless they want to know. If they want to know, great, we can have that conversation. So anyway, that's my encouragement, is especially after you've lost, or even after you've won. But if it was a close game, or actually even if it wasn't a close game, there still might have been things you could have done better. Asking afterwards if there's anything you could have done better, because especially an experienced and good player, like, as you're making the game, like, a big mistake will stand out to them, and they'll probably still remember it at the beginning of the match. I remember this came up when I was playing against Cheech when I was a newer player. So we'll say that there's, 2 eyes in the box. Free Peoples is moving the Fellowship. They get hit? They don't get hit. We'll keep rolling. There we go. There's a hit. And I remember it was right, I put the die here. I pressed Control M, but I forgot to move the die there. And a 1 reveal came out. So I'm here in the Fords of Bruinen, and I have to make the choice of, do I take the Corruption, or do I kill Gandalf, or do I take a random? And I took the Corruption because I was worried about Corruption, which is a fair choice because you want to be fair. But what he pointed out afterwards is that if you'd killed Gandalf, then you could, use a die to hide with Strider and then move again with this other character die, as opposed to now with Gandalf as the guide, you have to use his character die to hide. Which, to a lot of experienced players, that's obvious. But to me at the time, that wasn't obvious. And I'm glad I asked because he pointed that out. And then for next game, I knew better. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you have any other thoughts on how to get better, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.